It is an absolutely perfect day outside. After a couple of weeks of 90 to 100 degree weather, it is kind of cooling off. It's been kind of cloudy for a few days, and right now it is the middle of the day and it still feels perfect outside. So it is a great time for this week's garden tour. Hi, I'm Rachel and this is Oxheart Gardening, and if you haven't been here before, I do a garden tour every single week on Wednesdays, and I like to make sure that I'm showing you the full picture of the garden, and the good, the bad, and what I'm doing to help solve the bad. Because I think a lot of times when you're a new gardener, you get on YouTube and you see all these beautiful gardens, and then you look at your own and you feel kind of sad, because the garden that you have, especially in your first year, is never going to look as good as the ones that you see on YouTube, on the internet. And so my purpose here is to give you kind of a holistic view of how the garden looks week to week throughout the year, in the off season, when everything's dying off, in the in-betweens, and then teach you a little bit about my thought process every single week about how things are going and how I'm working through the seasons in the garden. This is my garden. I started it from lawn in May of last year, 2021. It was initially tilled, but since then I have not tilled at all, and it is my intention not to till going forward. So I like to try and always start in the same spot. This is my tomato trellis, and at the front here we have a little plant called papalo. This is a cilantro replacement. It is supposed to be similar to cilantro, but it grows in the heat instead of growing straight to seed. And hopefully that way I can have a cilantro-like thing to put in my salsa when all of my other salsa ingredients are fresh and ready. Most of my tomatoes are starting to get attached to the trellis. There's still a couple that aren't quite tall enough. This one, you can see I can kind of lift it up, but it doesn't quite make it to the trellis in a meaningful way. So waiting for some of those to get tall enough, whereas others are already quite tall and attached to the trellis. And after a certain point, I kind of just start weaving them through the trellis rather than tying them, because you'll find out I'm a lazy gardener and I find that to be a little easier. But if we keep going on down here, you can see I'm starting to get little fruits on my tomatoes. I think these are probably Amish paste babies, and I think I saw, yeah, over here I think these are Cherokee purple babies in there. I still have right now a couple of onion flowers that have gone to seed. I'm kind of waiting for these to have viable seeds and use that as a gauge for when to plant my own onion seeds. In the past, I have always bought starts for onions, but I'd like to be able to grow them from seed. It would be cheaper and more sustainable, but growing onions from seed has kind of escaped me. So I'm still very much learning how to do that and trying different things to see what works. If we come up to the next row here, this is my row of peppers, and at the front I have a few little basils and a wonky cabbage. This wonky cabbage got its head eaten off by a groundhog and continued on making a lot more heads. And it kind of seems like the groundhog might have been back for a snack recently, because this one is now missing, and there's even more little babies forming. So this is, I don't know, the many-headed monster version of cabbage. But peppers in this row are doing pretty good. I am getting little fruits. These, I think, are Due d'Espagne, although they're looking a little fat to be that. These are supposed to be really long, like kind of huge bell peppers. I did not label each pepper because my labels tend to get lost. So I drew a picture in my garden journal to try and keep track of what plants were where, but you know, that's going to be kind of imperfect as far as identifying exactly which plant is which. But once these ripen, I will definitely be able to tell which is which. Where were they? Somewhere down here, yeah. I have these. These are Edgevarsky for sure because they're pointy. These are sweet pepper. They are going to turn red and have really thick, sweet flesh. So I'm excited about that. I have still been dealing with a bit of an issue with some of my peppers. The leaves start looking like this and then eventually they turn yellow and fall off. And I'm still not entirely sure what is causing that, but I had it last year as well, and it kind of cleared up on its own. So I'm not really sure what's going on. The tops of these plants still look very healthy. So they're at least not like dying in a really systemic way. And down here, of course, we have to look at the beautiful fish pepper plants. Every year, this variegation it catches me by surprise how pretty it is. And I can see finally starting to get little baby peppers on this. This bush got really big before it started putting on any sort of flower. But now it looks like I'm about to have, oh look, there's a bigger little baby pepper right there. They will be kind of stripy as well, and then once they ripen to red, they will get to be solid red. But while they're green, they will be kind of stripy, which will be really, really cute. And then if we come around and go back down this other row, I have some eggplants here. These are Antigua eggplants, and they are just now, flowering. Anybody else ever do that? I can't count how many times I've tried to look at flowers and accidentally knocked them off. But it's got plenty more. So these are Antigua eggplants, and then farther down here I have Nagasaki long. And these, I actually harvested one the other day, and it looks like this one is about getting ready to harvest. These are really nice because the skin stays really, tender. So you don't have to peel them the way you do kind of traditional large eggplants. I also have, very excitingly, little baby corn. I finally got around to planting corn, and these are seeds that I saved from last year. They were red seeds, and that is all I really know about them, because the seeds that I started with the first year were also kind of mysterious. But I wanted red corn, so I saved out all the red ones, and then I replanted them, and we will see what we get this year. But it's kind of all of a big experiment, because this is only my second year ever growing corn. I mostly eat popcorn, not really fresh corn, so I am way more focused on popcorn varieties than like sweet corn varieties. If we come back to the front here, my trellises are finally starting to fill out. You can see the one in the back has noodle beans kind of growing on it. And then here at the front, I have cucumbers on this one side, which are just now flowering for the first time. I did start these kind of late. I know a lot of people are like maybe sick of cucumbers at this point, but I started mine late to kind of avoid some of the squash type bugs that can affect squash, so squash bugs and vine borers. So far they haven't showed up, but it is, you know, too early to say that I've fully avoided them. And just now my little baby pumpkins are sprouting on this side. So those two, hopefully they will make little small pumpkins, and the idea is to have them kind of hanging like ornaments, kind of like how this is in the trellis, and I think it'll be really pretty. I know that I have enough time to grow pumpkins from now because my growing season is pretty long. However, I don't know for sure that this technique of waiting is going to work, at least as far as vine borers and squash bugs go. So if we keep coming through here, I kind of have to walk around these radishes that have all gone to seed. Over here we have a nasturtium, which I think these are really, really cute with their little lily pad leaves. And I've actually got my first flower down in here. If you didn't know, all parts of nasturtiums are edible, and they're kind of peppery. Not great for sweet things, but kind of great for those savory type salads. And my noodle beans, I swear they're growing so fast. They're already all the way at the top of the trellis, and it will not be long before they really start floofing out and filling it in with leaves. You can see they're just starting to make their first buds for flowers, which means we are not that far out from noodle bean season. I know my partner is very excited for noodle bean season. Down here past the trellis is the potato patch. I have some sweet potatoes here, and I actually just noticed that my second round of potatoes is already sprouting. If you didn't see, recently I made a video harvesting my first round of potatoes and planting the second round right away in the same spot. I know a lot of people talk about crop rotation, and I feel like that's only really necessary for one of two reasons. One, you feel like there's not enough nutrition left in the soil to support another crop that's a heavy feeder of a specific nutrient, or you have a pest problem and you need to move something to a different area to kind of get it away from the pest. However, the size of my garden, I feel like it's not big enough to really get something like really away if there was a specific pest. I feel like that's more good for farmers, people who have a ton of land at their disposal to move crops more than 30 feet away from where they were. I do also have a ginger coming up next to my potatoes. This is actually probably too close to the potatoes. I didn't realize that I'd put the ginger like right here. But we'll see how well they coexist. I have been putting ginger roots kind of randomly around the garden. I didn't want to do like a whole patch of them, but they fit in between other things quite nicely. And in this patch back here, we actually have little baby squashes as well. These are acorn squash, bushing acorn squash. Here's another little baby right here. We're pretty excited about acorn squash. I know my partner for sure is. And then as we come down the rest of this row, you see I still have a Brussels sprout here. Never went to seed. I'm not sure if it's going to, but at this point I have to keep it to like see what happens. And then past that I have some peppers. These are mostly hot peppers. And I also have some zinnias that are starting to flower. So far I've gotten a lot of different pretty colors. I got this candy cane mix, so some of them have cute little stripes on them. And I really like these zinnias. They're so hardy as flowers. Like you can see, this is the first one that flowered. It's looking a little raggedy now, but it is already putting on a second flower and a third flower here. And throughout the season it will keep flowering, which I think is really nice. And they've got these nice long stems, which make them kind of good for cutting. So on the last row, kind of behind where all the peppers are, I have started succession sowing beans, and my first ones are actually ready to be pulled. I like these little ones with the pink stripes. If you know me, I will plant almost anything that looks like an unusual version of what you would normally buy in the store. And these ones with the pink stripes are really, really pretty, but you have to be careful to pick them pretty early because they get tough kind of fast compared to other like versions of green beans. This is about how many I can pull off the plants right now in the first flush, but they will assuredly make more going forward. If you didn't know, things like beans and peppers make fruit in flushes. So like rounds, they will put out some fruit and you pick it and the plant says, oh no, I didn't get to like mature my seeds, I need to try again. So it gets bigger and it puts out more branches and more fruits, and so that would be the second flush or the second round of fruiting. And you can kind of keep doing that to the plant until it dies. So with things like peppers and beans, the more you pick, the more you get. So if we take a quick look at the raised bed, it's been looking pretty different since I pulled out all of the cilantro seeds. And you can see I've got some of the sticks from the stalks just laying in here because why not? Extra mulch, it's not blocking anything. My lavender is flowering and it smells absolutely lovely. It's not really a lot to do much with. Make tea, I'm like maybe gonna pull a little bit, but mostly I just want it to continue getting established and staying healthy. The oregano over here though has also gone to seed. It makes these teeny little flowers, and I will probably try and save seed from this just to see. I don't really need to plant more oregano because it's perennial here, but I think it's really good to understand how different plants make their seeds and what they look like, and just continue to keep stewarding those seeds forward in case you need them. My parsley, which has been taking forever to mature its seeds, looks like it's finally getting close. These are reminding me a lot of dill seeds, actually, especially the way it makes bouquets of seeds. These are not quite ready, I think, but they are getting very close. Again, I also don't really need parsley seeds because this is a perennial, and once I cut all these stalks back, it will start growing again from the root. But again, it's just good to understand how these things flower, go to seed, and just continue having an understanding of your plants and how they work. And we can quickly take a look at the berry patch. and see that everything looks about the same except for the strawberry, which continues to explode in every direction. It is absolutely my plan to let that spread out under all of the berry bushes and have it be a nice edible ground cover that just continues to take care of itself, because I don't necessarily want to have to mulch it every year. So lots going on. A lot of stuff is on the precipice of being giant harvests, and that's really exciting and also a little scary. If you've ever been there before, you understand how much time it takes to bring in a big harvest and prep it and preserve it and do all the things. So I'm looking at many hours of work coming up, preserving the harvest going forward, but it is still exciting every single time. And I do look forward to this season where I get to make all the food that I'm going to bring with me through the year to feed to me, feed to my friends. It's exciting to have it, even though I'm not fully feeding myself with my garden. I'm at the point where I'm growing most of my own garlic and a lot of my own tomato sauce, and I can get pretty close to feeding myself consistent meals from the garden through this season at least. But I'm just one person, and if you've got a family, then there's obviously a lot more space and planning that you would need to eat really consistently big meals out of the garden. Thanks for coming on this tour with me today. I'm gonna take my little beans inside, have a little snack, and I will see you next time. If you want to catch up on garden tours, if this is your first one and you want to go check out all the previous ones, I have playlists here for this year and last year. Until next time, I wish you guys happy gardening.